in suffering equals satisfaction. There's if you lay on a sofa all day eating snacks, you'll feel terrible. But if you've ran a half marathon that morning, you'll feel great on the sofa. I always describe myself as naively optimistic. This isn't a story we tell to give the brand more authenticity. Deadly Dozen was always going to be grassroots. It wasn't built with investment. The whole growth of the company has been built off ticket sales. I don't fundamentally know the culture. I don't know the people, the ins and outs, the real sort of intricacies of what it is to be a South African. It became really important to me to find people that really knew their territory. One of the reasons fitness racing is so successful is not just because it's hard physical fitness and people want to post that they've completed a Deadly Dozen or High Rocks on their Instagram. It's because it's community. Yeah. You're surrounded by people. You're not just doing that race, you're part of a truly global community. Train anywhere, race everywhere.
Jay Curtis, welcome to the BlueRoom.
Thanks for having me, Cam. It's a fantastic setup. Really pleased to be here.
Well, you're our first international guest on the show. We had you out for this weekend, so we thought while you're here, just before you fly back, let's grab you for a chat.
Yeah, no, I'm really keen. It's been a fantastic weekend, like one I won't forget, and it's going to be great to just have a chat to finish it off and head home, 16-hour flight, and then on to the next thing. But I'm sure we'll be back again in probably a few months' time, or get back to South Africa. It's been honestly incredible.
So for the people that don't know who you are, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, your background, and then we can delve into childhood and work our way through that.
Take a deep dive.
Yeah.
So the sort of long story short is I'm from the UK, England, small town called Macclesfield, which is around 20 to 30 minutes from Manchester city centre. Grew up there, have 3 brothers, joined the military fairly young, wanted to be an army physical training instructor, joined the infantry, became a PTI as we call it. Spent 6 years in the military, loved my time in the military, but always wanted a gym. I'm quite fortunate that even from a young age, I wanted a gym. I wanted to start, it was more combat sports related. I did a lot of boxing and Thai boxing, was never going to be a world champion, just enjoyed the sport. So I always wanted a gym with a ring and punch bags and weights and stuff. But when I was growing up, we didn't do a great deal of weights. We did lots of circuit training. So I've always been involved in fitness my entire life. I then left the army and went into what we call like the civilian fitness industry. Started a boot camp on a park. Eventually had a small studio and a small massage clinic, like sports therapy clinic, in a boxing gym, funnily enough. And then I expanded to running my own strength and conditioning gym, set up an academy, started writing and publishing books on fitness like strength training, weightlifting. And then in the last 2 years, I came up with this little race called the Deadly Dozen, which involved 12 400 runs of a track and 12 labours, we called them. And it blew up essentially. And I was introduced to amazing people like yourself and May and other directors around the world that have sort of took the Deadly Dozen and brought it to their what we call territories, but their countries. And since then, we're sat here today from a race in little old Macclesfield to being in Johannesburg, University of Johannesburg track at the Africa Championships, thousands of people, and just an unbelievable experience. So that's the story so far, basically.
So from Macclesfield to the world.
Macclesfield to the world, yeah. I mean, we met recently in Dubai. Me and Simon, who's my head of media, we've been to Mexico City recently, to Malta at races. It's been incredible, honestly surreal, to be honest.
So I mean, let's get into scaling, because you obviously had this idea. It's probably blown up. You probably had the dream.
Mm-hmm.
To see the dream actually materialize and come to life is a very different thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of self-doubt along the way.
To be honest, I always describe myself as naively optimistic. So I've had about 20 or 30 big ideas within the fitness industry, books, programs that I've published, paperback. I'm going to write a program about every sport. And I sort of really believed that I could make something and make a difference in the industry. And in all honesty, nothing really caught on. I've published books and got some good reviews and gained a following through releasing ebooks and programs that people have really appreciated, but nothing at real scale, nothing that really had influence on the fitness industry. And we've spoken before, when I first released the Deadly Dozen, I genuinely believe that 30 to 50 of my gym members, because originally it was going to be hosted on the park next door to my gym that had a 400-meter loop on it. I genuinely thought 50 people would turn up, and I would have been happy with that. 100 people, absolute dream. Um, so although I knew I could create a race that in my head is the most scalable and accessible race in the world, and it made absolute sense because it's dumbbells, kettlebells, weight plates, and everyone's doing their movements. Every gym on earth has that equipment. Tracks are everywhere. It can be a big race. I never truly believed, deep down that it would go global. I knew it could be a relatively successful race because it was a good race. I really believed in it. And the feedback from people that were looking at the race design, I spent 6 months writing a training manual for it. It was great feedback. So I knew it was going to do okay and do well, but I never really truly believed it was going to be a global sort of trend that's growing rapidly.
So I suppose with anything with growth, there's mistakes along the way,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's people or we've been through this process. I mean, we started chatting and we did the deal chatting in like 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you put a lot of trust in me, but I kind of had to sell myself quite hard to what my background was and what we could do together. Doesn't always mean you're going to get it right. What do you think is the difference between, let's say, us as race directors versus other fitness races around the world? What makes the difference between what we do as race directors versus other big global phenomenons?
So for me, I don't want to use terms like authentic and stuff because it's cliche, or everyone's got real people behind the brand. But the bottom line is Deadly Dozen was always going to be grassroots. It wasn't built with investment. It was literally built. This isn't a story we tell to give the brand more authenticity. The brand was built by a gym owner in Macclesfield that came up with an idea that was built off the background of working with a lot of youth and training them goblet squats and dumbbell lunges. And the whole growth of the company has been built off ticket sales. So the tickets that we sold in Macclesfield, year two, let's go to London, let's go to Edinburgh, let's go to Birmingham. And then from there, the way that I realised I wanted to expand the race was I don't have the means to take this to South Africa, the budget to pay for us to go over to South Africa. And more important than that, I'm not South African. I don't fundamentally know the culture. I don't know the people, the ins and outs, the real sort of intricacies of what it is to be a South African. So it became really important to me to find people that really knew their territory and they could take on their territory. And now we're actually having people take on new territories because they've done such an impressive job. They've over delivered. So what was important for me was I got on the phone to yourself. We had several calls. It happened very fast, but it was about me taking quite a large risk, really, with the brand. But it's about building that relationship with someone. And for me, it was about what's going to make this brand work is it needs to be real people that are passionate about fitness. They're entrepreneurial, they're ballsy, as we say it, but they're passionate about what we're doing. And I could tell that, like yourself and other directors, really believed in it. They wanted to create a business that could be successful, but more importantly, they're like, we like this model, and this model can really make a difference. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be enjoyable. It's gonna be exciting, and they're there on the ground, and that's what's key. Really, is that it's not corporate. It really is grassroots. And even though the people that we're starting to get on board, people like yourself, like I'm happy to say you're a high performer. You've done. Me and Simon yesterday when we were looking around, we're like, this is fantastic. You over delivered, beyond our expectation. But fundamentally, you really care, and you
Yeah.
care about the people, and you care about the little things, and that's key.
I think it starts from the top and trickles down. I think that's why we get on so well is we really do care. Like I love what you do. I always see it in no other fitness race, the other big guys, let's call it.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of their brand ambassadors aren't allowed. They're not allowed to come race Deadly Dozen. And I find that bizarre because you will literally race everything and post from there how amazing a Hyrox race is
Yeah.
or a Deca or something like that. And you genuinely love fitness and racing. I mean, to the extent you've opened your institute in Macclesfield and you've basically affiliated with all your competing brands, technically, with Deadly Dozen. Why would you do that?
Yeah, so we're the Deadly Dozen Institute of Fitness Racing, which we see as the world's first institute of fitness racing, is Hyrox affiliated. It's Decker affiliated. You know, I'm really really get on well with Yancey from Decker. You know, he's an awesome guy. It's AFIX affiliated, which is another race that's expanding worldwide, different to what I coined as the big three. So 8, 10, 12, Hyrox, Decker, Deadly Dozen. In the way that it's more of a fitness test with different zones, you know, different stages to the competition. But it's, for me, it's about when your product is good enough, the pie is big enough. There's a big enough pie for everyone, and this umbrella that we call fitness racing, which does also include CrossFit. You know, CrossFit did sort of found and pioneer what was essentially like a gym sport, a fitness racing sport. Hyrox definitely pioneered this run exercise model, run exercise run. Deadly Dozen, my strategy was to look at it and go, well, how do I, in my head, perfect this? But every race is unique. I wouldn't change any other race.
Yeah.
You often see experts or content creators say, this is how I would do it better. It's like, no, well, it wouldn't be that race then. CrossFit wouldn't be CrossFit without the complexity. And yeah, for me, it's key to see, right, we've got this umbrella that is fitness racing. The bigger that grows, the better it's going to be for everyone. And, you know, originally I thought Deadly Dozen was going to be a fantastic feeder for Hyrox. So Hyrox is going to be people's A race. Deadly Dozen in the UK, Hyrox is often in the winter months. Deadly Dozen through the summer. It's 12 by 400. On paper, tends to seem a lot more accessible than Hyrox.
Until you do it.
Until you do it, and then you find it red zones you.
Yeah.
But I just thought that, you know what, if, you know, we've got this feeder race, but now hundreds and hundreds of people are telling us this is now my A race.
Yeah.
And this is the most important thing for me. But I just see it as one umbrella, which is fitness racing. The more people that get into fitness, the more people that go to the race will open their eyes to other races, and it will just build. I think fitness racing is going to be the most influential part of the fitness industry over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think so too. It's I think for us, what May and I try to create, and we said it from day one, and it wasn't always the best financial decision. We're gonna take Deadly Dozen to the people. It's expensive to travel for races, and fitness tourism is amazing, but not everyone can afford that all the time. So we were like, let's do the things that our competitors can't. Let's take Deadly Dozen to the small towns because we can. You know, I get that brands like Hyrox, as an example, the overheads are massive for a race compared to us. But we really just wanted to take our brand and our race to every small, not town. I mean, they're big cities, some of them, but to cities that the races wouldn't have. You've got a lot more competition in the UK, let's call it, where you guys are based, because you can pretty much hop on a 40-minute flight to Amsterdam and go race there, or to wherever it may be. Everything's close. So you can literally race, let's say, Hyrox every weekend in Europe, without a doubt. So you've got a lot of complexity to what you guys have to do, but it is a very different race. We're seeing a lot of brands coming out. Everyone's copying a Hyrox race because it's obviously working. It's a very good business model. It's a great concept. I love it. You love it. Everyone loves it. But I don't think Deadly Dozen something that can be copied.
No, it's we've had a few people that have essentially like copied us, as in the race design. You know, and our legal teams looked at it and stuff like that. But the bottom line is we're going to grow exponentially. And that's not just a fancy way. It's going to be exponential, because it's not just me going, right, let's go to France, right, let's go to South Africa. It's let's bring on new directors. This year, we could go to 20 new territories, each having 10 more races. The growth is going to be exponential. We don't need 10, 15, 20,000 people. It can be 200 people. I mean, we deem a successful race now for a startup is race 1, 100 people, race 2, 200 people. Yes, we're getting races. We're launching races in territories now, and straight away 500 tickets are selling within a matter of weeks in some locations. We're launching right the way across Europe. We're in Australia, New Zealand. But yeah, for us, we are so scalable, and because we've not got any specialist equipment, we've got the Deadly Run on the track where it's 400-meter runs, but you've got Deadly Road, Deadly Ski, Deadly Bike. All the gyms are looking at this and going, wow, this is unbelievable scale.
Yeah.
Every gym in the world has the equipment. We get people with home gyms that train from home that just want to do the Deadly Dozen. So for us, it's it's about having a really high quality race experience, but it's also about having the world's best global leaderboards that tie the globe together. So when you're racing Deadly Dozen, you're not just doing that race, you're part of a truly global community. And we're not talking 20 to 30 countries. We're talking over 100 countries eventually. We want to get to every accessible country worldwide. And like you said, what's really important to me is there's no doubt that fitness racing, in some regards, is quite an expensive sport. And it's almost seen as like a middle class sport. So people are traveling all over Europe to do these races. Now, one of the ways that we can bring down costs for people is obviously we need a certain ticket price because the business has to work. Otherwise, there is no race. But we can bring the race to them. You don't have to travel to London from Manchester to race because actually there's 5 races within a 10-mile radius of your postcode or whatever it may be, depending on the size of the country. UK is a little bit smaller than most. But yeah, it all comes down to our scale. We are so scalable globally that it will just be everywhere. And that's why we developed the tagline, train anywhere, race everywhere.
And then, the wellness side of things, and we obviously, first and foremost, what we do is we talk about mental health and wellness. The wellness sounds very easy to see from fitness racing. You, a S&C coach, strength and conditioning coach, first and foremost. Can you talk us through what strength and conditioning, what impact it makes on your mental health by doing that? And secondly, what you believe from a mental health perspective, this community of fitness racing is doing for people from a mental health perspective?
So the bottom line is what I always say is never judge how you feel till you've got your heart rate up, right? And the bottom line is it doesn't matter what you're facing. If you go out and do exercise, hard physical exertion, you raise your heart rate, you will feel better for it. Now, you could be going through the worst problems you've faced. You could go through stress. You could have had an argument with a partner. You could just be someone that has a very low mood state or is suffering with clinical depression. Every study I've ever read and every expert I've ever spoke to will just say exercise is a wonder drug. I think it was the World Health Organization said that if exercise was a pill, it'd be the most prescribed and the most successful drug in the world by a country mile. So the bottom line is if you can be physically active, you'll feel better not just physically but mentally. I remember my mum suffered severely with bipolar. She was, really severely depressed, and all they said to her is get outside, exercises. It's exercise
In sunlight.
Yeah, it's being outside, like things like vitamin. You sort of vitamin
Fresh
D,
air.
just fresh air is really important. And also, what people don't realize is, although it's very cool online to be introvert and want to be away from people and not like people and portray that. And yes, I'm like that. I like my own space, but fundamentally, social well-being, what we call like social health or social fitness, is one of the biggest predictors of longevity, health span, and happiness. Because it's one of the reasons fitness racing is so successful is not just because it's hard physical fitness and people want to post that they've completed a Deadly Dozen or Hyrox on their Instagram. It's because it's community. You're surrounded by people. And you're not necessarily having to have small talk. You're just surrounded by other humans having a good time, physically exerting themselves. When you physically exert yourself, it's almost like an alcohol where it sort of lowers them inhibitions. You get someone that's quite shy, well, run a lap of the track, you'll be less shy.
Yeah.
So it just releases all the good hormones and it makes you feel great. And I've never met anyone that's, you might not be enjoying it there and then if you're on a Deadly Dozen, but it's that type 2 fun and it's just profound for your mental well-being.
Well, I think most fitness racing, you kind of, because it's endurance based, you're questioning life's decisions halfway through the race at times. It's half the time he's smiling, the other time he's swearing or grimacing, and that's a nice thing. I think when you're on the track, you're looking around, and some people absolutely killing it, some people suffering, but that's all goes through. I mean, I think you had a tough race this weekend.
I had a really tough race. I was about 16 minutes slower than I usually am, and I felt fine on the labours, but on the runs, I mean, I'm not very well conditioned right now, and that's through my own fault. I've been very busy setting up the institute and haven't prioritised my own training. And yeah, it was hot, and we've had a flight, and it's at altitude, but fundamentally it was my own conditioning. I didn't have running legs, so I felt good all right on the labours. The videos didn't show that, but yeah, like some of the judges were saying it was like a brisk walk you're running.
What was the other comment you got?
One comment was, "I seen you running. Are you injured?" I said, no, that's just how I run. And I just says, come on, stop being lazy. I was like, I'm trying. But no, it was a fantastic. I loved every moment of it, and I was suffering. But I'm a big believer in involuntary hardship, in suffering equals satisfaction. There's if you lay on a sofa all day eating snacks, you'll feel terrible. But if you've ran a half marathon that morning, you'll feel great on the sofa. Relaxation and rest is only satisfying when you've been through a period of exertion.
Yeah.
It just is. If I was made to sit here for hours on end, that's true suffering.
Yeah.
And suffering sometimes seems like a pretty harsh word, but it's putting your body through stress, and it's adaptive, positive stress. So the right levels of stress is what ultimately results in satisfaction. Satisfaction comes from a period of stress that then is followed by relaxation, reward, and stuff like that.
So you touched on there. It's something that I've been struggling with is, we've been so busy with work, the conditioning's not quite there. I think a lot of people out there struggle with that. They want to exercise, but sometimes just life is busy. I mean, what would you say is the best suggestion to people how to find the time or make the time? Because you can't always be motivated, but you can always try to be disciplined. And it's that can also be tough. My conditioning is probably the worst it's been. It's getting better. I'm back at it. But when you're fit and healthy, it's easy to stay fit and healthy and go to gym. When you're feeling out of it, your conditioning's not so good. It's quite a struggle to get back into it. How do you get over that little hump?
So for me, like, it's always key to caveat, like, everyone has the same 24 hours. Everyone has 24 hours, but not everyone has the same 24 hours.
Yeah.
And there's levels to busy. People think they're busy, and then it's like, well, run several companies, or there's levels to busy. You're a parent at home. They say, get up earlier. Yeah, my kid was up at 4 a.m. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
levels to busy.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly difficult. But the number one piece of advice is pay yourself first. It's the same with investing, when it comes to money. Not that I'm an expert at that, but the first thing you have to do is what you can invest into, whether it's an index or something, you pay at the start of the month. Because by the end of the month, that money's not there.
Yeah.
So you've got to pay yourself first. And it comes to your health and physical fitness. There will be, especially when you get very busy, there will always be something to do, right? There's always 50 things that I could be doing now. So fundamentally, it's about putting you first and paying yourself first. Now, there is times in your life where actually you won't be able to do that because you can't be completely you've got to put other people first, your children, your family, the current situation that actually is more important right now. But long term, your body is yours. You only get one of them. It's the most important thing to you. As everyone knows, health is number one. You could have all the money in the world and you'd give it all up for, if you were dying, of some form of ailment. So health comes first, and we all know that physical training is fundamental to that. So for my advice is, yes, there will be stages in your life where actually you're not always able to put yourself first. Business might take over because right now, you really do have to work hard. Or right now, the kids really need you. But as a whole, pay yourself first, because them emails can wait, and not everything is as urgent. Today's society is very much, you've got to pick your phone up, you've got to answer your phone, right? I've got to get to this notification straight away. Just tell yourself, no, you don't. They can wait. You don't have to answer right away. Pay yourself first. And that's my advice.
And the day gets away with you, and the day can become a week, a month, etc.
Exactly.
Um, when what chaos have you been through prior to where you're at now? Because I mean, I know you pretty well. I know you've written a lot of books. Let's actually get into the books. Is it something that's quite therapeutic for you? One thing I didn't realize until we were all out for dinner the other night was you read a lot.
Oh yeah, I read a lot. My mum read a lot, and I read a lot. I'm not particularly a fast reader, but I read a lot. I have eclectic interest, and I always loved the idea of writing. I'm not a brilliant writer, and people might just think that's just him being modest. I mean, buy one of my books and you'll see. And a lot of my books were training manuals, and in all honesty, it was about, for me in the fitness industry, I wanted to be able to look back and say it's not about legacy. It's about just saying, look, I contributed there. I coach people and I help people, but on a larger scale, I helped people to become coaches. That's why I set up my academy in strength and conditioning. We qualify S&C coaches and PTs, and I wanted to write books that were really straightforward and easy to read. So I wrote books on strength training, on Olympic weightlifting, on how to warm up, and I've recently written a book on fitness racing. and I have an agent because I want it to be properly published by, the biggest publisher I can find, worldwide. And it's not easy, in all honesty, but they're wanting, it's my first real book rather than a training manual. It's a real book where I talk about sort of the philosophy, the history of fitness, and where I see it going, and the benefits. And in all honesty, my agent said it's fantastic for the reader, but the publishers are looking at it and going, where does this sit on a shelf?
Yeah.
We don't know where it sits. At one stage, it's talking about periodization. The next stage, it's talking about like the philosophy and the history of fitness. So I really enjoy writing. But for me, the most important part was about really contributing and putting my stamp on the fitness industry, which is the industry I love and the industry I've been in, a long time.
So fitness racing, I've got an outlook. I've got a major worry, actually. Let's call it that. But a lot of fitness racing is extremely linear, and I foresee a lot of injuries. I'm no expert, but I foresee a lot of injuries in the future because there's not a lot of lateral movement in a lot of the training for this. A lot of people are training for a fitness race but doing the race.
Yeah.
What would your advice be there?
It's similar advice to what's always given in general sports: is don't specialize early. I mean, the one sport where you do specialize early is gymnastics, but as a whole, most of the studies show, for example, in soccer, that they're best off playing different sports because the qualities they get from playing tennis and basketball and different sports then translate to football, and you can sort of specialize. Now, when it comes to fitness racing, it is just a strength and conditioning approach. So you've got to have the specificity, which is you're doing the racing, you're doing the very specific circuit training and the compromised running. But like any good S&C coach knows, it's the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And it's about having the fundamentals, the general physical preparedness. So yes, we have the specificity, but it's actually novices that believe that everything should be sport specific. So our sport is fitness racing, therefore you should be just doing their movements. People think that golfers should just be doing rotational movements, or tennis players should only be moving lateral, or doing something with a tennis racket in the hand. It's like, no, if we're trying to get strong, what's the best way to get strong? Or maybe it's put a barbell on the back and squat, or do a barbell or a hex bar deadlift. If we want to get fast, what's the best way to do it? Well, it's sprinting. So it's key in the physical training side of fitness racing is to have a well-rounded program where you've got zone 2 runs, general runs, you've got tempo runs, potentially track days or hill reps. You've got your conventional strength training, and you'll hear runners go, well, I'm a long distance runner, I need to do high reps. It's like, no, you're trying to achieve strength development. So do, lower reps with higher weights to build more strength. So yeah, it's having a well-rounded approach to your strength and conditioning, and long term you'll be a healthier athlete, essentially, with more longevity.
You said the other night when we were at dinner, maybe we were actually driving, and you said something about you believe that footballers or soccer players could be the best fitness athletes.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, CrossFitters with a background have a strong shout, but I think footballers or soccer players, how you refer to them is I've worked with a lot of athletes. I've been head at S&C at a rugby team, and I've worked with a lot of combat sports athletes. And sometimes footballers get criticised because they take dives and they roll, and people call them, soft or wet, or, and it's essentially, it's almost become part of the sport. However, every time I've worked with a soccer player or a football player, they're insanely fit because they're just sprinting. It's like 5-10K of sprinting every time they're playing the game. And these are, young boys and girls that are just doing repeat sprint ability all through childhood as they're playing soccer and, football. And then they get to such a high level of anaerobic fitness. And often they're quite powerful individuals. If Ronaldo was running across the field towards you, it'd be quite intimidating. A lot of them are big framed, they're strong, they're powerful athletes, but their capacity to sort of run hard and fast is there. And I think what we'll see in fitness racing is a lot of athletes from the conventional sports will start looking at this as a new hobby, a new way to let out that steam, to get that competitiveness out without having to go back to, say, boxing in the 50s, which is never a good thing.
Yeah.
They'll go into fitness racing. I think that's a really good thing. And actually, we'll see some athletes that maybe don't quite make it at a professional level.
It's a second chance.
Yeah, they'll come to, they used to say CrossFitters were failed athletes. It's not really true.
I always joke and say fitness races are failed athletes. It doesn't mean you're a failed athlete. It just means you didn't get to the pinnacle where you could have gone, where your ability was at, but you've underpinned yourself with a great athletic platform. So we actually had the chat the other night, and I believe guys like Cristiano Ronaldo, Zlatan, those guys, their strength and conditioning has given them longevity in their sport. Where you're seeing they're probably in the best shape of their life now
Yeah.
at this age.
Yeah, and you see with a lot of these athletes that have sort of, they see that athlete for life and they really buy into it, and about having that health span, is they will lean, now that they're not doing as much of their sport, and especially in sports like rugby where it can be quite hard on the body, sometimes they'll do the right thing and lean more into the physical side, because it's all about health span. Training's not going to make you live 20 years longer, but then last 20 years are going to be far better because you're able to do the things that you want to
Pick
do.
up the grandkids and stuff like that.
And that's the LTAD model. The final stage, long-term athlete development, is athlete for life.
Yeah.
Because your sporting career will end, and then it's time to be like, right, well, coach others, mentor others, and I call fitness racing almost the perfect lifelong sport. Because what does every, like I said, what does every study recommend? Do resistance training for bone density, muscle density, do your cardiovascular training for heart and lung health, and cardiovascular health, which is absolutely key. So what's fitness racing? It's just resistance training and cardiovascular training in a sporting competitive setting. Is literally the perfect lifelong sport.
You said like sports for life type thing. How young do you think kids can start lifting weights?
Kids can start lifting weights from pretty much any age, right? As long as it's appropriate. So the idea that it stunts growth and this sort of thing is just not true. There's just no evidence behind it whatsoever. Now, lifting weights carries risk, just like running. If I was to say to a 10-year-old, right, you're going to go run a marathon, it wouldn't be appropriate. It would, the impact would end, knee problems, heel problems. People have heard of things like Osgood Slatters, Sever's heel, stuff like that, like repetitive strain impact injuries that kids get when they're playing lots of sports and there's lots of jumping and running, stuff like that. Strength training is positive, resistance training, and you get what's called trainability windows when you're an adolescent. And they're periods in your development where you're going to see profound improvements in performance. So often, for example, boys and girls are slightly different. For boys, like a year after peak height velocity, whereas you have your biggest growth spurt, they're going to see profound improvements in strength. I often used to say to people, if you're training a youth athlete, don't be sort of singing your praises because of all the improvements they've made, because they're going to improve. It doesn't matter what program you've got them on, they're going to improve because they're at a key development stage. So we've got these trainability windows that lots of us missed out on because people are like, no, you can't go to the gym, you can't train, it'll stunt your growth. It's not true. It's about appropriate loading. Now, when it comes to injury surveillance studies, the conventional sports that we play that are all awesome, but come with the risks that they come with, are far higher injury risks than lifting weights in a controlled setting. It's not as stressful as what people perceive it to be. And actually, it's ironic that the kids that do suffer, knee injuries playing rugby and stuff, might not have been as susceptible if they were stronger, if they'd built more muscle.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get these overuse injuries if they'd had a proper strength and conditioning program. So pretty much at any age, you can add resistance. However, it needs to be appropriate load management. What we actually find with youth that I train is it's not about it's not about it's preventing them from doing more because they want to do more. You'll often find that, I was talking to someone about this yesterday, that people think that youth have endless energy, and they do if they're trying to wind you up. But when it comes to physical exertion that you're putting on them, actually kids are quite resistant to that. You give them a weight, and it doesn't matter if they love sport or not, it's empowering and they love it. And actually, you have to pull them back and say, no, 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 that's too risky. It's too heavy. You're
Yeah.
risking injury. But no, weight training is appropriate at essentially all ages. I tend to find 12 plus, even though every 12-year-old can be different in their biological age. Generally, it's a good age to sort of, they're at a level where you can work with them well.
But obviously, supervised form's important.
Supervised form's important. People think that kids naturally move well. It's not always true. There's always the example of babies, but babies have short legs and long torso, and big heads. And they can squat perfectly. So people think kids can squat perfectly, but actually, by the time they hit adolescence and they have growth spurts, they actually can be quite uncoordinated.
Yeah.
And the spines bend over double when they're doing a deadlift. So yeah, people think kids move naturally well. It's not always the case, especially during sort of times when they're having growth spurts.
So Jay, if there's one thing you could change about the fitness industry, actually fitness racing industry, what would it be?
about the fitness racing industry. I would say that the one thing I would change, which I think it's happening anyway, is just the perception of it being, for elites, for fit people. It literally is for everyone. And I think the one problem where it could go, I don't think it's there yet, but it could lean towards like quite an elitist, quite expensive, quite, Hyrox is already quite expensive, and it needs to be because it's a growing business and, they provide an exceptional service. But I'd say I think it's a good thing that we'll have smaller races that will be cheaper, local gyms, leisure centre. And, people were surprised I went to my local leisure centre, like community gym, where they were running a race, where they'd obviously been influenced by the Deadly Dozen. But I think they're important because they were cheap. And, I think that's a good thing. It's the one thing I'd change is if it ever got to the point that it was too elitist and people looked at fitness racing and went, that is for influencers, that's for fitness fanatics.
Yeah.
It's not for me. It genuinely is for everybody.
But I think there'll always be an entry level, even for an entry level. There's always going to be something that is easily accessible, and that's what I feel we are, especially here. We're probably the converse. I like to say we're the converse of where Hyrox is at, with it's from a level of athlete very high at Hyrox. Our high level's a lot smaller, but it's improving all the time because as people race, they just get better and better. People always come and tell me the stories. Their times, it's their third or fourth race now, and it's just forever improving. You've coined a phrase, or a word called effortism.
Yeah.
Speak us through what effortism is.
So essentially, I've always been a big fan of Stoicism, like, read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations and sort of Epictetus and Seneca and always, Ryan Holiday and all that sort of stuff. And I was always a little bit, there was a little bit of a manosphere and a broicism, and I tried to stay away from it in a way where people are sort of trying to portray Stoicism as, how do you make more money? I'm like, well, it sort of goes against what Stoicism is. And also people misunderstand it's about stiff upper lip and being hard. And it's like, no, it's about emotional intelligence, really. It's about thinking, well, here's a problem. How am I going to react to that? Is it going to benefit me getting upset and stressing and shouting at people? What's the best way? So, if anything, Stoicism is about being more emotionally intelligent. It's not the opposite, which is what people perceive. The modern term for being stoic is stiff upper lip. He or she is very stoic. Actually, it's about being more in having a stronger relationship with your emotions and understanding your emotions and just being more intelligent about your emotions. And a lot of it was internal with Stoicism, like inner citadel. My inner citadel is no matter what problems I face, I've got an inner citadel, and that's my fortress. And for me, a natural progression from there, which was very heavily influenced by what I see as almost my author identity with this new novel, which is effort. And I was like, for me, it's not about internal meditations. It's about when I wake up in the morning and I go, what am I going to put my effort into? Is it business? Is it family? I've got a finite amount of effort that I can put into something. And to me, the effort is the action that results in progress in any vertical within life. You have to put effort into it, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, whether it's your kids, whether it's your business, whether it's your own physical fitness. Everything is fundamentally effort. So you've got to decide each day when you wake up, what am I going to put my effort into? And what deserves my effort? And that's distributed throughout the day. So I started to develop a philosophy I then coined as effortism, which is sort of my evolution of Stoicism, where it's taking key principles of Stoicism and applying it to the concept of effort. And from there, I developed the sort of 12 maxims, which are all about the 12 maxims of effortism, about, right, what are the core pillars of this? What are the sort of the 4 cardinal virtues? Looking at that Stoic framework, which after reading lots of different self-help and sort of, the smart thinking section of Waterstones we have in the UK, which is, just sort of pop science books. A lot of it was regurgitated Stoicism. And I was like, but Stoicism is very internal. It's about, how you respond to things. And I'm like, I want something that's more of an action. So my idea was, my version of, for example, the inner citadel, which is that inner fortress for a Stoic, was the sort of the fortress of effortism. It's like, I'm going to, through action, build my fortress. Through voluntary hardship, which the Stoics believed in, like doing a fitness race, working hard with business, I'm going to build my fortress. So rather than it being an internal emotion, physical action, and this, highly influenced this logo here, which is we use for the institute, but it's obviously the Roman numeral 12 for the 12 maxims, and also obviously influenced by this race, the Deadly Dozen, which is hard physical effort, it's voluntary hardship. The sort of turret of the castle or the fortress is as an E for effortism, and it's a shield. It's right in the center of the chest. It's about strength. It's about fortitude. It's about courage. To take on new challenges, the fortitude to sort of withstand them. But it's about action rather than introspection. It's about building yourself up through action. So if you were going through a hard time, my advice to you would not be, toughen up or take it, or it wouldn't be philosophical. It'd be go out and do something hard, Cam. Like go and do a fitness race, go do physical activity, go build your business. Put your effort into something, and that will be your rehab. That will be that will be the key to sort of improving your mental health is action.
So it's externalizing, basically.
Exactly.
You're putting out there. So you're obviously big on that, but who supports you? Speak us through your family, your wife, your kids.
Yeah, so my wife's incredibly supportive. She's a very, her mother's incredibly stoic. I don't think she has ever thought twice about stoicism, but she is. My wife she's an incredible woman that looks after our kids, and fundamentally I am everything is like I am very sort of wife, family, very family orientated. It's about my kids, it's about my wife, it's about my business. I'm the bottom line is I want to build a strong business. I'm passionate about the fitness industry. The reason why I want to build a strong business is financial security for my family. It's very big passion for me to build financial security for my wife and kids and be there for them, be able to provide them with a really, really good life. And I would say that a lot of people that support me are, it's my social circle, which is the gym members, the people that have helped me set up Deadly Dozen, the team around me, other directors. It's the relationships that you build. A lot of people, they they need a very tight inner circle, and I do think that is key. But I've actually found that I've gained sometimes just as much benefit from the outer circle, people that I'm not necessarily seeing every day or relying on if I need to call them at 2 a.m. But it's the people that have really, put effort into me and believed in me that builds that fortress. People like yourself, people like Simon, mate, everyone that's gone, I believe in Deadly Dozen. That's really key for me. The gym members that support me and reshare something or excuse me, or turn up for, an event to volunteer or, just help out. It's unbelievable how them small little gestures of what I call like of effort.
Yeah,
The biggest gift you can give someone is your time. What's even
100%.
more important than that is giving them your effort.
Yeah.
You can give someone your time, but giving someone your effort is like the biggest gift you can ever give someone. And, now hundreds and hundreds of people have done that for me. But yeah, the backbone is my wife and kids. And, the reason people often say, well, you're going to South Africa for 3 days or you go to Mexico for 3 days. I'm like, because I miss my kids.
You got to get back.
I really, really badly miss my kids.
Yeah.
So they're really important for me. And also, my dad's, unfortunately, my mum passed away a few years ago, but my dad's, always really helpful. He's not one of them guys that, we hug and kiss, but it's a very sort of quite an old school relationship, just a lot of banter. But, he's there to support and help out, and I've got guys at the gym that setting up this huge gym whilst running Deadly Dozen. They're there every day helping, putting air bikes together. And, there's just so much support on so many levels.
I mean, Macclesfield as a town, I mean, it's the mighty Macclesfield now. I mean, still in the FA Cup,
Yeah.
beating Premier League teams. Ironically, where we're racing world champions, so you decide to go and knock them out. Probably not a smart move. But, like a lot of towns around the world actually go through their hardships, and you've decided to make the home there. You could have gone anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in Macclesfield your whole life.
No, so I was born in Wythenshawe and then lived in a few different, lived in Oldley Edge, and then I joined the army at, so I was sort of in Cheshire, joined the army, lived in London, Germany, Cyprus, the northeast. So I spent my last 2 years at Catterick, and I was looking between Manchester and Macclesfield. Where do I live? Where am I going to live? And I didn't want to be in sort of real affluence within Cheshire. I couldn't afford it. I had zero money. I've always loved Macclesfield. There's my best friend, they boxed in the box gym there, grew up there. We used to go out as kids there. It's an industrial town. It's a silk town. It's a very, yeah, it's about 50,000 people. And I absolutely love it. It's 20 minutes from Manchester. It's in the Peak District. It's just to me, it's a lovely place. I think if you spoke to people that have lived there their whole life, they're like, oh, it's boring or it's always raining. But to me, I absolutely adore the place. I really do.
And in closing, what do you want your legacy to be?
To me, is just like my legacy is he's contributed to an industry that he loved. He was a good, he tried his best. He was a good guy that looked after his wife and kids, his family. It was, which is really important to him. And that he cared, but he contributed something of value, so he gives something back to the fitness industry because it's the industry I'm passionate about. And it's not about legacy because the Stoics always said that, remember, the people that will remember you will soon be dead. And it's about just contributing where I can look back and go, you know what, I'm really proud of what I did there. And I'm proud of the people that I met and the relationships that I built. And I'm proud that something that I've created and now you guys are helping me to expand globally is helped, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people worldwide, which is somewhere we think we can get, which is over 1 million races a year, and we can get there and people enjoy it. And then the bottom line is if you've enjoyed yourself, then we've won. If you've had fun, then we're winners.
Well, we're looking to a massive 2026 for Deadly Dozen and a world champs this year. And Jay, thanks for joining us on the
No
show.
worries at all. I really appreciate it, Cam. Thank you.
Pleasure.